But in Japan, and I think that's one of the reasons why you don't see a lot of influencers going to clinics and getting work done in Japan, it's just inserting all of like the threads, then they just pull the threads and then that gives you a lift. Be your best, you can do it, be your best. Bio means beauty in Japanese. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hello, and if you're coming back, thank you. So I really hope that I don't get any kind of noise complaint, because it's like 3 a.m. in the morning and I'm over here and I'm still filming, but we are on a roll today, so we're just gonna go with it. But yeah, so today the topic is of why you would want to maybe consider not getting beauty procedures done in Japan and maybe Korea. And so yeah, but before I get into the video, let me introduce myself. So my name is Laura and I've been living in Japan for 11 years. Last year I passed the Japanese cosmetic licensing test. What that means is I studied this in Japanese. Does that mean I'm a medical professional? No, I am not. But I want to use the information that I learned to help you be your best. Before we get into the video is that I do have a YesStyle code. So if you're planning on purchasing anything from YesStyle but you don't have any other creators code that you would like to use, please feel free to use my code BEOBEST9. You can find the link in the description box down below, but again, no pressure. If you don't need it, you don't need it, just keep that in mind. But yeah, so with that, let's get right into today's video. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to talk about this, actually, I'm gonna go ahead and thank my boss. Thank you so much, because she was talking about this documentary that she had seen about beauty in Japan, and I had seen the same one, and I was like, yeah, this is really interesting. I really want to make a video on it, but I don't think anyone's gonna watch that. She was like, I would watch that. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm gonna make a video on it then. So here we are. But yeah, so like, it's funny because I feel like a lot of people don't really talk about getting work done in Japan, but you see people, especially on TikTok, talk about their experience in clinics in Korea all the time. Like, all these influencers, they'll go to Korea, they'll get a bunch of procedures done, they'll be like, hey, I got this and this and this done, and I don't know if they have like discount codes or whatever, but just a lot of people go to Korea to get a lot of beauty procedures done. And I actually have had people, actually I want to address it now, but I have had some people, at least when I first started this channel, not so much recently, but people ask about like, oh, can you recommend clinics and stuff like that, or any kind of like medical procedure like that. I wouldn't want to recommend it unless I feel like in my spirit, like I would have had to like pray over this clinic and be like, Lord, please, I pray that this is an amazing clinic or something like that. And I would have to have done my research and stuff before I recommend anything. But after I saw this documentary, then I'm like, oh, this makes me more convinced that I definitely want to do even more research before I even do recommend anything. I believe there's this American lady who she got some kind of procedure done. I think it was she got hyaluronic acid inserted, like injected into her eyes, and she went blind in one eye. And because she did it in Korea, it made it really difficult to work on the whole legal proceeding stuff. And so like, it's very serious. I feel like, especially when you have these influencers pushing these like, oh yeah, like, oh, and I got this and done at this clinic and stuff like that, it's very easy to just be like, oh, like, yeah, it's not that big a deal, but it's kind of a big deal, So the one thing that I would say is that with Korea, at least, I think that clinics probably have staff that speak English, so at the very least you could have stuff explained in English. But in Japan, and I think that's one of the reasons why you don't see a lot of influencers going to clinics and getting work done in Japan, is just because I don't think that there is that level of English support that would warrant, is that the word that I'm looking for, people feeling like, okay, I can go into this, they can explain what it is that the procedures are, what it is, terms and conditions, what would happen in the case that something goes bad, what would happen in the case of it goes in emergency, like, whatever it is that whenever it is that you would undergo that level of procedure, there are, I'm sure, certain proceedings and certain things that need to be explained, certain things that need to get done. And for the most part, I believe, as far as I understand, like, there's not a lot of clinics, the majority of clinics, it seems, in Japan don't have that level of English support. So I believe that that's why that's not really a thing in Japan compared to Korea. But aside from the English, there's also a recent issue. This is not just related to Japan, this is also apparently an issue in Korea as well. But the bigger issue, I would say, is the prominence of this thing called Chokubi. Chokubi is essentially like, choku means direct, and then bi is from bio, so the same bio that's in my channel name, Bio Best. It's also that same bio, but that one is for bio, irio, and then bio is beauty. So irio is medical care, medical treatment, so it's within the realm of like, medical, like beauty procedures. So Chokubi is becoming an issue because what's happening is that these doctors who, let's say for example, you have like a dentist and they were studying to be a dentist, but then when they graduate from dentist school and after they finish their training, instead of going on to doing like residency and then becoming a dentist, then they would go on to they would open their own beauty clinic and then they would do beauty procedures on people. And it seems like, from my understanding, it's not as regulated as it should be. So that's a very interesting, given how much they regulate like the cosmetics things that we put on our face. So Chokubi is kind of a problem, and the fact that you have very little English support if you go into these clinics and then you don't have English support but you get this work done. Actually, the documentary that prompted this whole video essentially was this documentary by this program, I guess, called Mr. Sunday. And then this particular documentary was talking about Chokubi, and it started off with this lady in the ER. How did she land in the ER? So essentially she was getting liposuction done, and then when the liposuction was finished, I guess she lost so much blood that her blood pressure fell, and then she had to get taken to the emergency room, and that's where she's at. And it seemed like she was just like, oh yeah, like whatever, they're just gonna treat me and then I could go home. But the guy was like, no, we need to like have you stay overnight so that we can monitor you and make sure that you're like relatively okay. And she was like, oh, it's like that? And he's like, yeah, it's like that. And one of the doctors who was there in the room was like, yeah, like had this been like in your throat, like in your neck area, then this could have led to like your death, because the blood would have gotten stuck in your throat. And it's like, wow, like that, you know, like when you hear things like that, it really kind of brings weight to the situation. So they didn't reveal it immediately in the documentary, but later in the documentary they asked the lady who had this procedure done, they were like, well, how old was the doctor that was working on you? She was like, I guess he was like his mid-20s. And so they're like, yeah, that tends to be the age of like these young doctors who they get out of just fresh out of training, and instead of going on to become whatever doctor it is that they studied for, they just open up their own medical clinics. And so then this ER that they're filming, that they're doing the documentary at, is specifically what they take care of is people who have had procedures done at these beauty clinics and then they need help. And this particular clinic, it seems, I don't know, I guess maybe they're running 24 hours, and they're like, yeah, like the number of cases that we've seen of people who are coming to us because of these beauty procedures is increasing year by year. And a lot of the times it seems like it's these inexperienced doctors that are doing these procedures. So another procedure that they talked about was this lady who she had the I think it was like kumatori chirio. So kuma is the dark circles under your eyes, and they have a procedure that they do that it says to remove the dark circles. But for this lady, what they had done was that they had injected something into the bottom, like here, and it's supposed to help get rid of the dark circles. But actually at first, immediately after the procedure was done, she had a little bit of like a difference between the two like eyes. But then even after some time had passed, and I took this one screenshot, and I'm not trying to take too many screenshots because I don't want anyone coming after me with copyright. But also it's like surgical procedures, so they can be kind of graphic. This one is not very graphic though, so I'm gonna put this up here. But you can see there's a really big difference between you know, the left eye, or the right side and the left side. And I feel so bad because you're watching this documentary, and this lady, she's like, you know, you go in there, this procedure to try and make yourself, you know, to beautify yourself, to make yourself, you know, to improve. But now I have this that I don't know how to get rid of this. And you know, she's like crying, and you just feel bad for this person that this happened to them. And so they were saying that what they think happened in this case is that there's a problem with what they had used in what they had inserted in her eye. They were saying that it had seicho inshi. Seicho inshi is growth hormones. And so seicho inshi, or these growth hormones, are used in medicine. And they showed in the documentary, the doctor who is treating these people who are coming from these beauty issues, he was like, we do use that in medicine, but we use it and it is approved to be used. Like they showed a picture of like a drawing of like a spray, and for example like a scraped knee, it's used, they spray it on, but it's not approved to be injected under the skin. We haven't done enough clinical trials to see how does it that works. But people in these clinics or whatever, they'll do this because, you know, seicho inshi, it's even used in cosmetics that we put on our skin, and that's supposed to help with like regeneration and help us to look more youthful. But again, that's stuff that we're putting on our skin. We're not inserting and injecting it in our skin. We don't know what that does. And now we're seeing the effects. Okay, so I don't know that this has happened to every person that has gotten this treatment done, but it happened to this person. And again, because we don't have records of this, then we wouldn't have known that this could have been the outcome, is kind of like what's going on. And he was saying that basically like it's just more cost effective to use that because again, like Seijo and Shea, these growth hormones, they, you know, they're supposed to help with the skin at a relatively low cost. So for the person doing the procedure, it's like, okay, I don't have to pay that much for the ingredients and we probably will get some results on your face, but because it's not approved that much, because it's not tested that thoroughly, then you could have instances like this where now this lady has two very different, you know, her face looks very different on both sides. So this instance of Chokubi, or these doctors who finish their training and they go and they open up clinics, this has been over the past 10 years, it's been increasing by like 12 times. And so like before it was like they had less than like 100 or so clinics or people that did this, and now you have over, you know, hundreds that are doing this, and it's just popping up all over the place essentially. So there was this other story that I had wanted to mention, and it's this lady who she had this thing called the ito rifto. So ito rifto, essentially it's like what they do is that they make, I believe that they make an I don't know if they make an incision here, or they have like a needle that has like this thread, and then the thread has almost like spikes on it, and then what they'll do is that they'll insert that into your skin, and then when they're finished inserting all of like the threads, then they just pull the threads, and then that gives you a lift. So they have two types. They have the non-soluble type of ito, or these threads, and then they have the soluble types of threads. And the soluble types, I think they dissolve over the course of a year. And so that has been, I've heard about that before, and I haven't necessarily heard of too many people. I mean, I'm not necessarily like researching that all the time, so I can't say 100%. I'm sure that there's people who it hasn't gone that well, but this lady, they put in 20 of those ito, or those threads, inside of her face. So they put 10 threads, and then they put 10 threads here, and at the same time it seems that they also did Jbeauty or liposuction. And when she's explaining this to the doctor is like, whoa, like max is 10, so it would be 5 and 5. So they did double that. And the lady, she was like, yeah, and they put like the most expensive class of strings it is, or the ito, these threads that they have on my face. She was like, yeah, my face was swollen for a month, and they showed a picture, and like legitimately her eyes were like, her face is so swollen, she couldn't even open this eye. This eye was completely closed, and this eye was just like the tiniest bit open, but they have it like, they like blocked out her eyes so you can't see it, but I'm not gonna show that one. But yeah, her face was so incredibly swollen. And the doctor who was consulting her at this emergency center, he was like, yeah, like it sounds like they were doing it for profit, because the more of these threads they put in your face, the more that they can charge you. Realistically, that's what it comes down to. So this lady, she's trying to take legal action against this clinic that did this to her. But when it's Jbeauty, I mean, so in Japan you have, I believe, I'm sure that there's more, but the ones that I understand is that you have the Hoken Shinryo, and then you have the Jbeauty. So Hoken Shinryo, Hoken is insurance, so that's like the national health insurance or like the social health insurance. So beauty treatments would not fall in that. Beauty treatments would be in the Jbeauty, or the things that you chose to get done just because you wanted to. The doctor did not recommend this. This is not needed for your health. This is purely for whatever purpose other than health. So you have to pay that 100%. And what the doctor was saying, that apparently when it's Jbeauty, that it's difficult to make it a legal case. So now you have somebody who is, you know, like whatever amount of pain it is that they're in there, and for her it had cost 134 man. So if you don't do yen to like USD, I'm from the States, so if you don't do yen to USD conversion, it would be like $13,000 that she paid for this treatment that was probably done improperly. But again, because it's not covered by insurance, then it's really, really difficult to make a case. But yes, these are the stories from this documentary in Japan. Imagine navigating the legal system within your own country, within your own language, that you could defend yourself 100%. But yeah, so to just have to do that cross borders, cross countries, and that's not, if you have to fight that fight and that's not your native tongue, like that's gonna be an incredibly hard fight to fight. So yeah, Chokubi is a really big issue and I'm gonna leave the links to the documentaries that I saw down below, the ones in Japanese. There's one in English that also talked about that happening in Korea, it's not only an issue for the people who undergo the procedures, but it's also actually it's part of a bigger social issue as well. Because, for example, some people who they were studying to be like a pediatric or a pediatrician, but now they choose not to be a pediatrician, they end up going, they're doing the Chokubi route and they end up opening their own beauty clinic. Now you have one less pediatrician like in that country, and if you have less help, obviously that puts strain on the medical system, which I don't know if you know, but Japan has a declining population. The population is getting older. They're also not making more people, and so with the people that you have, you're getting more older people, you're getting more people to go to the hospitals and these emergency rooms. And so if you have less doctors that are in those spaces because they're all up in people's faces, I'm not gonna lie, that was not bad. They're just doing it because, well, I'm gonna get into some issues and some reasons why some people go that route just in a little bit, but the overwhelming majority, it seems like people do that because of the money. Then yeah, like that causes a problem. You have a shortage in doctors. And so one of the doctors, if it wasn't in the Dr. Sunday interview, it was in this other interview that I saw, he was talking about some of the reasons why he decided to go the Chokubi route is because the doctors are overworked. So there's already incredible strain on the medical system, and this guy's like, yeah, I feel it, you're incredibly overworked. And he was talking about how the ningen kanke, or that joge kanke, ningen kanke is like human relation, joge kanke, joge is up and down. So the up and down relation, because in Japan you have the hierarchical system, so you listen to your superiors, you listen to your senpais, and he was like, it's really bad in the medical field. And so it was very difficult, and I couldn't, so I just chose to not continue to pursue that route, and I just decided to open up my own beauty clinic. That's where I'm at now. But I'm sure there are people who also just pursue it purely for profit. And so with the joge kanke, I don't know how it is in the medical field because I've never worked there, but I've studied Korean a little bit, and as far as I understand, like Korean joge kanke, or that like senpai kohai relationship, is even more strict than in Japan. I don't remember that necessarily being mentioned in the documentary for the Korean one, but that is an issue maybe for some people as well. But yeah, so it's a lot. All of that to say that if you're thinking about getting procedures done in Japan, do your research. Double check, triple check. And obviously there's no way to prevent 100% whatever it is, anything. There's all kinds of freak accidents happen and all kinds of things, but like, given everything that I've mentioned, if you're interested in getting procedures done in Japan, I'm sure there are places that are just fine. And there's actually some doctors that I've been interested in checking them out, because looking at their content, I'm like, I would trust this person with my face. But I also speak Japanese, and they put their videos in Japanese, so be very dubious, be very wary. And if you're in Japan, I would not mess around with, if you're in Japan, even if you speak Japanese, like in the Mr. Sunday thingy, there was this 50-year-old lady who she said she's done a bunch of procedures over her lifetime, and she was like, her advice to young people was like, think about why the monitors, they'll be like, well, yeah, like we'll do this procedure for free. Why is it free? Because you are the practice, like you're the test dummy for whatever it is that these doctors are going to do. And if stuff gets messed up, you're not going to be able to come after anyone legally, especially like even me being able to speak Japanese at the level that I can, thank you Jesus, but like I don't know that I can navigate the legal system like that, like it's a lot. It's honestly a lot. So I'm just saying, double, triple, quadruple check, read, get advice, just think about it. Like if you're thinking of doing something of that level, I'm saying really, really genuinely, truly consider it seriously, because it could have some serious consequences. But yeah, so this was kind of I feel like my content is usually like do 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 do, but today was a little bit like do 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 do. But sometimes I guess life is about balance. But yeah, so let me know what you thought about today's episode. Would you like me to cover more topics like this? I'm telling you, man, I spent so much time on YouTube just watching a bunch of stuff. There's so many things that I want to talk about, but I stopped myself, so I'm trying to stop stopping myself and just trying to talk more. We'll see how long it takes me to edit the video. But if you have any kind of questions or any kind of concerns, please leave them down below. Yeah, I think that's about it. If you haven't subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. What are you doing? But yeah, as always, I hope you have a good day. Remember, God bless me, your best.